Ever feel like your dog's world is shrinking? Like every walk is a potential minefield of scary things. If that sounds familiar, trust me, you are not alone. Today, we're going to dive deep into the science of building a truly brave and resilient dog. We're going to talk about how to transform that fear into confidence, one small positive step at a time.
So let's just start with this big question. Is your dog living in a bubble? Has your home basically become a fortress where everything inside is safe, but the entire outside world seems terrifying? It's a really common feeling for so many dog owners, and it's exactly what we're going to unpack and solve today.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about the problem, this idea of a shrinking world. Then we'll get into the solution, which is all about creating a sensory symphony for your dog. After that, we get practical with the toolkit, your confidence compass, and then lay out the actual journey with the building blocks of bravery. And we'll finish up with the most important part of all, you, and how you can become their calming presence.
Okay, let's get into it. You'd think that a super safe, predictable home would create a really secure dog, right? But it's kind of counterintuitive. Without a variety of new, positive experiences, a dog's brain can actually learn the opposite, that anything outside of that familiar bubble is a potential threat.
See, a dog's brain is always building a mental map of what's normal, and this slide really shows the two different maps it can create. On the left, you've got the insular world, confined to the same four walls, the same backyard. That teaches the brain that this tiny bubble is the only safe place, which naturally leads to fear and reactiveness. But on the right, you have an enriched world, new sights, new sounds, new smells. That builds a brain that's flexible, adaptable, and confident when it encounters something new.
And this is a huge mindset shift. When we see things like nonstop barking or chewing up the furniture, it's so easy to label it as bad behavior. But what science is telling us is that so often, this is just your dog trying to cope. They're trying to self-soothe or fulfill some deep instinctual need for stimulation. They're not being bad, they're telling you something's missing.
So if the problem is a lack of stimulation, well, the solution is to provide it, but not just randomly throwing things at them. It's about creating this rich sensory experience, a symphony really, that taps into their amazing natural abilities and helps rewire their brain to be healthier and happier.
Now check this out. To really get this, we have to understand how different our dogs are from us. We see the world, but dogs, they smell the world. Their sense of smell is so powerful, up to 10,000 times better than ours, that it's almost impossible for us to even imagine. For them, a good sniff is like us reading the morning paper, scrolling through social media, and checking our emails all at once. So when we rush them on a walk, we're basically yanking the newspaper out of their hands mid-headline.
And this quote is everything. It's a total reframe for most of us. We think the point of the walk is to go, 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 cover ground. But letting your dog stop and have a really good long sniff, that isn't a distraction. That is the point. It's a massive mental workout for them that actually lowers stress hormones and can tire them out just as much as a run.
Of course, it's not just about the nose. A truly rich environment is this whole symphony of senses. Seeing a new park, hearing the distant sounds of traffic, feeling different textures under their paws, like grass or pavement or dirt. All of this is feeding important data to their brain, helping them build a world map that's less scary and more interesting.
All right, we understand the why. Now let's get into the how. This isn't about just hoping for the best. It's about using a precise toolkit. And the two most important tools in that kit are understanding your dog's emotional threshold and using a technique called desensitization and counterconditioning.
Okay, if you only remember one thing from this whole explainer, let it be this: the emotional threshold. Just picture a line. Below that line, your dog is calm. They can think, they can listen, they can learn. But once a trigger, like another dog or a loud noise, pushes them over that line, their thinking brain just shuts down. It's all instinct, all survival mode. They can't learn anything up there. Our entire job is to do our work below that line.
So how do we know where that line is? Well, we have to learn to read our dog's early warning signs. Think of these as the yellow lights. They're the subtle whispers of discomfort. A yawn when they're not sleepy, a quick lick of the lips, suddenly getting really interested in sniffing the ground. These are all your dog's ways of saying, hey, I'm starting to feel a little bit stressed here. That's your cue to create some space.
Now, if we miss those whispers, the communication gets a lot louder. These are the orange signals. Their whole body goes stiff. You might see the whites of their eyes, what trainers call whale eye. This is your dog basically shouting, I'm really not okay. We need to get out of here now.
And it's so important to remember that these things can stack up. A car backfiring, then a person gets too close, then a dog stares. Each one adds a layer of stress, making a big reaction way more likely.
So, this is the gold standard scientific method for actually changing how your dog feels about their triggers. It sounds complicated, desensitization and counterconditioning, but the idea is simple. Let's say your dog is scared of other dogs. Step 1. Find a distance where your dog can see another dog but isn't reacting. That's staying under threshold. That's the desensitization part. Step 2. The moment the other dog comes into view, you start feeding your dog something amazing, like little pieces of chicken. The second the other dog disappears, the chicken stops. That's the counterconditioning. You're changing the association. Over time, your dog's brain rewires from, oh no, a dog, to, oh yes, a dog means chicken is coming.
Okay, so we've got the tools. Now, how do we use them out in the big wide world? Well, you don't just jump into the deep end by going to a crowded dog park. You build bravery slowly, layer by layer, starting in places where success is pretty much guaranteed.
This is kind of what that journey looks like. You can think of it like leveling up. You start at level 1. Maybe an empty office park on a Sunday morning, super quiet, just sniffing and exploring. Then you graduate to level 2, just watching the world go by from the safety of your parked car. Then maybe level 3, walking way off in the distance, parallel to some activity. And only after all that, you even think about level 4, like a super quick planned trip into a quiet store. See? Each level builds on the success of the last one.
So we've talked about the environment, the science, the plan. But none of it, and I mean none of it, works without the final, most critical piece of the puzzle, you. You're not just the person holding the leash. You are your dog's source of safety and security in what can be a really confusing world.
And that brings us to what is probably the single biggest and most harmful myth in all of dog training. We've all heard it, right? Don't comfort your dog when they're scared. You're just reinforcing the fear.
Let me be absolutely clear. That is 100% scientifically false. You cannot reinforce an emotion like fear with comfort. Think about it. If your friend is having a panic attack, do you reinforce their panic by giving them a hug? Of course not. Fear is an involuntary emotional state. When your dog is scared, what they need most is to feel safe. Comforting them does that. It builds trust and teaches them that you are their protector.
And this isn't just some fluffy idea, it's a real biological process. It's called co-regulation. It means that your calm, regulated nervous system can literally, physically help to calm down your dog's stressed out, dysregulated nervous system. You become their emotional anchor in the storm, just by being calm yourself. So how do you actually do that? It starts with you. Take a deep breath. Feel your shoulders drop. Loosen that death grip on the leash. Use a low, calm, soothing voice. And when you need to move away from something scary, do it with a calm, purposeful energy. You're communicating non-verbally, I see that scary thing. It's okay. I've got this. We're safe.
And at the end of the day, this is what it's all about. This whole journey isn't just about making your dog stop barking or lunging. It's about building a relationship of such profound trust that your dog knows, deep in their bones, that even when the world is scary, you are their safe harbor. And that feeling, that deep, unshakable trust in you, is the ultimate foundation for a confident dog.